This week on Case Studies with the Biz Doc, it's Algolia. It's a search company that's actually challenging a little piece of the Google empire. Believe it or not, it is. Google doesn't own search around the world, and we've got the story from the beginning of venture through the growth and to a multi-billion-dollar valuation. This week. Algolia. It's a search company with a multi-billion-dollar valuation. A search company? How does anybody compete with Google these days? Well, they are, and I'll show you what they've done in a very tight niche market. There are two guys, Nicolas Dessain and Julien Lemon, and they are both from France, and they came over with an idea to do offline search on mobile, so as you're searching within an app or within a website, you would quickly get answers from inside that ecosystem. Not a broad Google search all across the entire internet. Google is doing that in monopolistic fashion, but this is micro searches and searches that are inside an environment and giving you answers in milliseconds. We'll talk about what all that means, but somebody thought it was a good idea down the street from Google, Y Combinator, and in winter 2014, Nicolas and Julien got Algolia into the Y Combinator incubator. They graduated successfully and then raised some money. How much money? Let's take a look at the money they raised and then dive a little bit more into the product and what it means and where they're going. First of all, coming out of Y Combinator, there's a little bit of seed money that you get when you graduate Y Combinator, and they were very successful with that. Remember, this is winter 2014, and then in May of 2015, somebody thought pretty highly of this. They raised a $19 million Series A. That's right, $19 million Series A, and the company is headquartered in San Francisco, California, out there in the Silicon Valley region, where many small tech companies blossom and thrive. Away they go. Then exactly 2 years later, they're working on this and are making some traction, which I'll talk about in a minute. Excel is attracted to them, and it's a $53 billion Series B. So now these guys have raised $72 million since graduating in winter 2014 in less than 36 months. So obviously their traction is there, and they're getting the attention of investors who are giving them significant valuations and significant capital. Exactly 2 years later, 2 years and 2 months, Series C is raised in October of 2019, $110 million. Now remember how I like to talk about the doubling effect of money? Take a look at this. 53, 110 is a doubling effect. 19 million Series A, 53, 40, that'd be a doubling effect. I kind of look at those kind of dynamics and to see what the investment community, venture capitalists, and significant private equity players, if they're investing at this stage, think of them. Well, we now get down to 2021, where we are right now, and they must be getting a lot of traction because it's a Series D and they raised $150 million in July of 2021, and with a post-money valuation of $2.25 billion. Well, wait a minute, you just graduated in winter 2014. This is 7 years, and in 7 years, it's a $2 billion valuation. It's unicorn status, and there's only one word for that, and that is damn! A multi-billion-dollar search company has been built in 7 years in Google's backyard. Well, let's take a look at what this search company is all about, because they're in a special niche and they do things a little bit different. They started out and said, what if we could do offline search on mobile apps? So offline, you could search things and find them very, very quickly in the app. Then it moved to, well, wait a minute, what about SaaS? Now this is software as a service, but they said we will be search as a service. Wait a minute, search as a service? Yeah, what if websites will pay us to run our search engine and we're not Google? So they don't get tied into the entire Google ecosystem. They can discreetly build functionality in their own website that is not Google. That's a key selling point. But more importantly, this is something that enhances what you're doing for apps and your website. So it's an API that integrated real-time search into the app or website. Now what that means is real-time search. As you're typing something in an app, whatever it is, maybe it's a shopping app or something, as you're typing the keystrokes, there are answers that are predictively showing up in front of you. Now Google will do this, like if you type in, Major League Baseball scores, it'll start giving you possibilities right there in a short list, and maybe even for Major League Baseball scores, it'll pop up a little microsite in the middle of the search results that gives you yesterday's scores. Similar what's going on here. That is just autocomplete and auto-suggest. Well, what they're looking to do in a mobile environment is say, we're going to follow the keystrokes and we're going to build all of our algorithms and search and our technology that it comes back to you in milliseconds. See, milliseconds is important in mobile. I'll tell you why. Because you have the keystroke on the phone sending it over the air link to the server, wherever that is, the air link being from your phone to a cell site to fiber to the server, from the server response, fiber to the cell site, back to your phone. So if you're not doing things at the end of those trails in milliseconds, the only thing you've got to depend on that you can't control is the air link. But once you're there at the server, you need to answer in milliseconds so that people on their phone get those responses. So they have to think about a mobile world where milliseconds are everything. You and I have probably done the same thing. We get tired of waiting, refresh, and we back up and do it again. Maybe on an app, or we'll just close the app and ask it to start again, because we're frustrated and we want it now, and we should with 5G speeds and things. So this is millisecond response. Really amazing that they architect it this way so that now you have a non-Google partner helping you to do so much more in terms of functionality on your app or microsite. Well, how are they doing? Well, they indicated that they had 650 of the top million sites right at the beginning of 16. But I noticed that it was 2 years later, end of 18, early 19, they said they have 5,000 of the top million and only 200 of the top 10,000. Well, that's good, but there's serious traction that needs to be received here. And apparently, if you take a look at the valuations, the investors have line of sight into where this is going, because right now they are up to 320 employees, 750 total customers, or should be sites or app providers, 60 billion user queries a month, and they're in 70 data centers. Well, now take a look at that. They have all the architecture around the world to put this in place to service all of those apps and all of the customers of SaaS, search as a service. They have a global footprint for their data centers, quick response times, which is critical, and they're handling now 60 billion user queries a month. That's pretty astonishing. And now you can easily see why Excel and others believe that this is a $2 billion valuation company, because they have now carved out a multi-billion position next to Google in that. Why doesn't Google own this? Why isn't Google providing this to you and me? Well, it's because two guys from France had a better idea to put this type of functionality in websites, went to Y Combinator, graduated Y Combinator, the heart of Silicon Valley, Sam Altman, and getting all this great feedback from the people and the mentors that are there. And now $2 billion valuation with this kind of impact and these kind of user statistics. And the Biz Doc radar, I'd be looking around like an IPO 2023, and I'll tell you why. Because one of my lessons down here, SaaS equals ARR, annual recurring revenue, which is very attractive to capital, whether that's an investor or that's the public market, the stock market, because annual recurring revenue, you make a contract once and you're in a relationship that goes and goes and goes. Kind of like your cell phone and your relationship with, say, AT&T in the United States or T-Mobile or whomever. That annual recurring revenue is very hard to break. So there's also, this valuation is on an annual recurring revenue play. So let's take a look at the lessons for you and me. Even the giants have weak spots. You take a look at Google and what they can do and all the stuff that they do, and here these guys show up with something that maybe, why didn't Google make this as a micro product that would be available for app developers? Well, who knows, but they did. So the giants have weak spots. Also, hyper-focus sometimes gives you premium revenue opportunity. Their hyper-focus is, hey, through these data centers all around the world, we're going to allow autocomplete to show up in millisecond speeds with great algorithms, so if somebody wants to incorporate it to their website, we can deliver on that. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to do search inside, and because they're so smart with this AI and search inside, they're also looking at predictive modeling of shopping behavior to see how you're searching and how often you're searching. So the AI is actually working to predict whether you will actually purchase the product that you just searched for on that e-commerce app. Pretty trick stuff, and a natural extension of the fantastic algorithm and intelligence that they built into the network, running on 70 data centers, serving 60 billion queries a month. That's what I think about Algolia, but what do you think? Leave some comments down below. I answer as many as I can. And while you're there, subscribe to Valuetainment, the best channel on the internet for entrepreneurial content, and hit the bell to get notifications for the next great case studies. And if you like this one, check out one of these from the Biz Doc archive. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Until next time, I'm Tom Ellsworth with the Biz Doc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.